After years of working together, Lynda Randle breaks the silence on Gaither. Lynda Randle is known for her soulful voice and inspirational performances, while Gaither is renowned for her charismatic presence and powerful stage appeal. But when these two musical giants teamed up, things didn't go as expected. Stay tuned for shocking details of the behind-the-scenes life of the famous Bill Gaither. Gaither and Lynda Randle's journey together began at a time when both were establishing their names in the music industry, yet neither of them could have predicted the immense impact their partnership would have. They met in the early 2000s, both already seasoned musicians with their own unique sounds. Gaither, known for his deep soulful voice and charismatic presence, had already garnered attention in smaller venues and had a loyal fan base. Randle, on the other hand, was gaining traction for her powerful performances, blending gospel, blues, and soul in a way that captivated audiences. There was a time when Gaither and Lynda Randle were the perfect duo. Their music was magic, their partnership an example of harmony both on and off the stage. From the moment they started performing together, it was clear they were something special. Their collaboration was more than just a musical bond, it was a friendship, a trust that had developed over years of working side by side. Their fans adored them, and the industry respected them. But as with many stories in the world of entertainment, everything can change in an instant. And for Gaither, that moment came quietly, almost imperceptibly, but the ripple effects would reverberate for years. It all started subtly, a few small changes here and there that no one quite noticed at first. Gaither, once known for his easygoing nature and playful charisma, started pulling back. He wasn't as eager to engage with fans after shows, his once bright smile now less frequent. The personal connection he'd always maintained with Lynda began to slip. Though Lynda tried to brush it off, attributing it to the stress of their demanding schedule, soon those changes started to add up, and it became clear to those close to him that something deeper was at play. Gaither had always been a private person, but now he seemed to retreat even more into himself, becoming distant and almost unrecognizable at times. Lynda, ever the supportive friend, continued to stand by him, but even she could feel the shift. There were whispers among their team, some saying that Gaither was struggling with personal demons he hadn't been ready to confront. Others speculated that the pressure of maintaining their stardom was taking a toll on him. No one could quite put their finger on it, but it was clear that the Gaither they all knew and loved was changing in ways that couldn't be ignored. Then one fateful night, everything came to a head during a live performance. The audience witnessed something that no one could have predicted. In the middle of a routine set, Gaither did something that left everyone, including Lynda, stunned. He kissed another man on stage. The moment was brief but powerful, and the reactions were immediate. The audience fell silent, unsure of how to respond. Some cheered, others were left speechless. Lynda stood frozen, her face a mask of confusion. She didn't know whether to keep singing, whether to address what had just happened or whether to step off the stage and confront Gaither immediately. The music continued, but the atmosphere had shifted, and the tension was palpable. After the performance, Gaither quickly retreated backstage, leaving Lynda to field questions from the media. There was an awkward silence that followed as the crew scrambled to figure out how to handle the situation. Lynda was approached by several reporters who had seen the kiss and were eager for a response. She didn't have one. All she could do was say, "I don't know what happened tonight. I need to process this." She didn't have the words for the confusion, the emotions, the shock. What she did know, however, was that this wasn't something that was just going to disappear. It was a turning point, a dramatic shift that would change everything. The media quickly picked up the story. Headlines screamed about the shocking incident, with some calling it a scandal and others speculating about Gaither's personal life. But no one knew what to say for sure. Some outlets called it a publicity stunt, others claimed it was a moment of personal revelation, and still others hinted at deep-seated struggles that Gaither had been facing in private. It didn't help that Gaither went silent, refusing to address the incident publicly. No interviews, no statements, no apologies, just silence. His social media went dark, and his once engaged fan base was left in limbo. Lynda, too, was left in silence. She didn't know how to process what had just happened. She didn't know what had driven Gaither to do what he did or whether there were things about his life she'd never known. All she could do was stand by him, at least for a while. But the weeks that followed were filled with an unsettling quiet. Lynda reached out to Gaither, but he kept his distance. He was no longer the man she had worked with for so long, and she couldn't help but feel as though he was slipping away from her. In the industry, the pressure was building. Fans were confused, some even angry, demanding answers. The speculation and rumors began to mount. Was it a sign of a deeper identity crisis? Was he simply tired of the public eye? Or had something else been going on that no one knew about? The media, as always, was relentless, dissecting every possible angle of the situation. Some even speculated that Gaither's career might be over. It seemed like the perfect storm, an event that could bring down a legacy that had taken years to build. For Lynda, it was heartbreaking. She had watched Gaither rise from obscurity to stardom, and now she felt like she was watching him crumble in front of her eyes. She knew that something had to give, but she wasn't sure what that would look like. She had supported him through everything, the highs and the lows, but this was different. This wasn't just about music anymore. It was about Gaither's personal journey, something that no one could fully understand. In the months that followed, Lynda and Gaither's relationship went through a slow unraveling. They spoke less and less, and their public appearances were fewer and farther apart. The partnership that had once felt so seamless was now strained, and Lynda couldn't help but wonder if she had missed signs of Gaither's struggles all along. Had he been hiding something from her? Or was this just a moment of personal reckoning he hadn't been ready to share? As for Gaither, he remained silent, still refusing to speak out publicly. He withdrew from the spotlight entirely, and for a time, it seemed as though his career was over. Fans, once eager to support him, were now left with nothing but questions. What had caused this sudden change? Why had he stepped into such controversial territory? And what did it mean for his future? This moment, the kiss on stage, had marked a dramatic shift in Gaither's life and career. While the media and fans continued to speculate, the truth remained elusive. No one knew what would come next, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The music industry and those who had supported him were left to pick up the pieces, wondering if Gaither would ever return to the man he once was, or if the weight of this moment would define the rest of his career. The audience, but never anything like this. As the song continued, she tried to maintain her composure, singing with the same energy, but it wasn't easy. The tension in the air was palpable. Her mind raced with questions, but she kept her focus on the performance. This was no longer just about the music. Something had shifted, something that no one in the audience or even on the stage could fully comprehend. The kiss lasted only a moment, but its impact would be felt for much longer. It was as if time had stopped in that instant, the energy of the room shifting from celebration to confusion. As the final notes of the song rang out, Gaither pulled away, giving no explanation, no context for the unexpected action. He simply walked off stage, leaving Lynda and the crew to process what had just transpired. No one knew whether to rush after him or give him space. The crew was speechless, and Lynda, standing alone on stage, did the only thing she could do: she finished the song. Backstage, things were chaotic. The band, usually so synchronized, was thrown off by what had just occurred. The roadies and crew members exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what to say or do. It was clear that something big had just happened, something that couldn't be ignored. But what? No one knew. No one had seen it coming, least of all Lynda, who had been working with Gaither for years, had traveled with him, laughed with him, and shared countless moments of success. And now, in an instant, the dynamic between them had shifted. The media picked up on the kiss almost immediately. Social media exploded with theories, speculation, and questions. Fans shared clips of the moment, replaying it over and over again. Some were supportive, others were confused, and some were downright angry. Was this a statement? A personal revelation? A publicity stunt? The possibilities seemed endless. But what was undeniable was that Gaither had just crossed a line, not a line on stage, but a line in his career, in his personal life, in the very identity he had built over the years. This moment, this single kiss, had turned his world upside down, and the world of those around him, too. For Lynda, the aftermath was a whirlwind. She couldn't quite understand what had happened. She'd known Gaither for years, but in that moment, it felt as though she was seeing him for the first time, and she wasn't sure she liked what she saw. The kiss had revealed something that she wasn't ready to confront. What did it mean? Was it a sign of something deeper? Had she missed something all these years? Her mind raced with questions, and yet the answers never seemed to come. She knew that the media would be relentless, that fans would demand answers, and that the music world would be watching closely. But what could she say? What could she do? The next day, the headlines were everywhere. Gaither kisses man on stage, shocking moment stuns fans, the kiss that rocked the music world. The articles were full of speculation, each one presenting a different theory. Some saw it as an act of defiance, a statement of personal freedom. Others viewed it as a shocking betrayal of the persona he had built. The media was relentless, dissecting every angle, analyzing his every move in the days that followed. But despite the frenzy, Gaither remained silent. He didn't issue a statement, didn't address the kiss, and didn't engage with the media in any way. His silence spoke volumes, but it left a hole, an unanswered question that no one could fill. Lynda, too, was left in the dark. She tried reaching out to Gaither, but he was distant, more closed off than ever. She didn't know how to approach him. What could she say? What could anyone say in the face of something so unexpected? She had spent years working alongside him, sharing victories and defeats, and now she felt like she was losing him. She didn't know what had happened behind the scenes, but she knew that something had changed in him. The man she had known and worked with had somehow become a stranger, and it was tearing her apart. The weeks that followed were filled with tension. The tour continued, but the chemistry on stage was gone. Lynda could feel it every time they performed. There was a distance between them, an invisible wall that neither of them knew how to tear down. Fans continued to speculate, but the questions remained unanswered. What had driven Gaither to do what he did? Was it a spur-of-the-moment decision, or was there something more behind it? What did it mean for his future? For Lynda's? For their careers? For Gaither, the silence. They had seen their son struggle in the early years, fighting for recognition and success. They had been by his side through thick and thin, but now they found themselves on the other side of his public downfall. They didn't know what to think. His sister, who had always been supportive, felt betrayed by the lack of communication and the secrecies surrounding his actions. No one in the family had been prepared for the consequences of that single kiss. No one had imagined that something so small could unravel the delicate threads of the life they had all worked so hard to build. At first, Gaither's wife Lynda tried to downplay the situation. She held firm to her belief that this was just an isolated incident, that things would return to normal once the dust settled. But as the media storm raged on, she began to feel the weight of the fallout. She had always been the one to stand beside Gaither, to support him when times were tough. But this was different. She was no longer sure of what she was standing beside. The trust they had built over the years started to feel fragile. Was the man she thought she knew the same person who had kissed another man on stage? She found herself questioning everything, her marriage, her role in his career, and her place in a world that now seemed to demand an explanation she wasn't sure she could provide. The public, however, was divided. Some fans rallied behind Gaither, claiming that his actions were a brave act of personal expression. While others were appalled, unable to reconcile the Gaither they had admired with the man they saw before them now. Social media was a battleground, with messages of support clashing against accusations of betrayal. Some fans took to Twitter and Instagram to defend him, calling out the hypocrisy of those who expected public figures to be flawless. Others, however, expressed their dismay, stating that the kiss shattered the illusion they had of Gaither. How could someone who had been such a role model suddenly turn into someone they didn't recognize? They had invested so much in his story, his music, and now they were left with a sense of betrayal they couldn't shake. The critics were relentless. And if it was a mistake, why wasn't he owning up to it? It was clear that the fallout from that kiss would not be resolved quickly. The damage had been done, and Gaither's public image would never be the same. The story that had captivated millions now felt like a tragedy.